Hey there, clan, and welcome to another installment of Worth It or Not, or We On if you prefer. In today's installment of Worth It or Not, I'm going to be answering the simple question: is Undertale worth your time, your money, and the effort? Let's dive out of this and do this review now, shall we? Okay, let's dive into this now. First of all, let me just reiterate, this review will be as spoiler-free as I can possibly make it when it comes to Undertale. And I'm a bit late to the party when it comes to this because Undertale has blown up. Like, I had heard of Undertale, I'd seen some gameplay of Undertale before I eventually got around to buying it. And everyone had been praising it. Of course, with the Video Game Awards, some people were quite miffed that Undertale didn't win any awards. But I decided to give Undertale a chance. After a recommendation from someone in my work, I decided, you know what, my first paycheck, if it's not too badly priced, if it's on a sale, I'll buy it. Wasn't too badly priced, I bought it, and subsequently for the next week I played nothing but it. That should say it. Now, if you don't know what Undertale is, let me explain. Undertale was an independently developed game by one person and a couple other members of the team. The one person worked on it for quite a while, apparently. And the game, it's hard to describe what kind of genre it is, because it's a bit of an RPG, but also a bit of an action-adventure game in some instances. It depends on what your classification is. It's one of those few games that you're kind of like, what kind of genre would you put this? It's that unique in a way. And the reason that it stood out, in my opinion, for a lot of people is the fact that it is a very meta game. That's the best way I can describe it without going into spoilers. It's very self-aware that it is a game, and it plays with that very well. I don't want to say too much about it without going into too many spoilers, but it's interesting, unique enough, especially in this time and age, that I think it is at least worth, in my opinion, everyone to play. But that being said, as says, it's not the greatest game ever. It's a unique game in this kind of industry, and I actually really like it for that. Now, let's dive into, of course, the story, gameplay, graphics, and of course, sounds. Let's start with the story. The story of Undertale is that you play in a human in a world where humans and monsters do exist, and at one point in the time there was a war, and the monsters lost, and they were forced underground, and some form of magical barrier was created to keep them underground. And the way in this world that it kind of gets by why humans won is humans are physically and so strong. They are very strong beings in this world, while monsters, they are strong, but once they're dead, they're dead. They actually turn to dust. And they, in a way, it's described that monsters don't really have as strong a soul as humans, which explains why they may have lost the war. And you play a human who fell into a hole, basically, in a mountain, where anyone who's ever went up here has fallen and never came back. And this actually leads to the monster's underground realm, basically. And you as a human, your main goal is to get home. But how you get home is very important. You will meet a vast amount of very interesting and very well developed characters, and characters you will actually sympathise with. As it says, I don't want to spoil too much and tell anything about the characters you'll run into, but there's a lot of characters in this game that you will end up liking, in my opinion. I loved almost every character in this game. I absolutely adored for some reason or another, and I absolutely enjoyed it for that fact. So really, the story of Undertale is actually very strong, and it actually has slight variations on the way you play. Now, if you've heard of Undertale, you've heard of the fact that it is a game that you can actually play through as a pacifist. You can play through the entire game without killing or attacking anything. And that's more into the gameplay, but that's what it is. There's also the genocide run in which you kill everything. That's very interesting in my opinion. I don't think I would do that run, but that's beside the point. But you actually get slight variations in the tale if you play through two versions of it, which is actually kind of interesting. I always recommend doing the true pacifist run first, because that's the more interesting one in my opinion. But without going into too many spoilers, I can't really talk too much about this, but I will say about this about the story. It's interesting, it takes a couple of twists here or there, which I actually enjoyed. And I enjoyed the story. The story is very simple, it's very basic, it's nothing grandstanding, it's not the greatest story ever written, but it's interesting and unique enough that I could actually recommend the story for this. It's actually very well done, so it definitely is a positive for that. Now, when it comes to the gameplay, of course, the gameplay is split up into a bit of a bosses. The standard face down scrolling while you're walking around, that kind of thing. Kind of like a RPG-esque kind of thing with the overworld. And then you have the combat in the game, which is a very interesting way to do it. There's actually 4 things you'll do in combat. You will do either fight, act, items, or mercy. And the way it works in this one, you can purely fight anything you want. You will be attacked by monsters. It goes into kind of like a Final Fantasy VI kind of combat system. The monsters will be there. They will attack you. You can choose to attack them. That's fine. That's game logic 101. Something attacks you, you attack it. But that actually is a good the act option, it actually allows you to not fight them. It actually allows you to perform actions, whether it be, for example, if you're fighting a dog. You'll fight some form of dog in this game. I don't want to spoil too much about it. The dog is playful. You can actually just pet the dog. Pet the dog. Pet the dog. And the dog will become complacent, relaxed, and then you go to spare, you go to mercy and spare them, and you win the fight. That is very interesting to me, and I actually really like that option. That's why in my first playthrough, I did nothing but act. That's what I did, and it was very interesting to see how these creatures reacted to it, and I rather enjoyed that for that. It's very interesting finding the way how to get through the fight without killing anything. And I definitely enjoyed that aspect of it. It was very interesting, very well played out, and also very well implemented. It felt natural, it felt fine for the world that we are in. And you can play the entire game through pretty much being pacifist, except the final boss, which I will say this, it doesn't make it too clear. You do have to fight the final boss, but I don't want to spoil beyond that. Even in a true pacifist run, you actually have to fight the final boss. And then you can do something else, which I won't spoil. But I actually like that. That's very interesting, very well done. And it definitely also plays in the fact that it is a game. There is a couple of references throughout the game, even in the combat, where it does make reference that it is a freaking game you're playing. I definitely like that. The gameplay is very basic. It's nothing groundbreaking, but it is basic gameplay, basic combat, basic everything. But the act feat actually makes it unique and stand out. And I really, really like that fact. Very well done, very well implemented, and the combat is basic. It's basically, in my opinion, you can actually play, anyone can play this game. The combat is very simple, it's very, very retro is the best way I can describe it. And I enjoyed it. And I normally don't like this style of combat and this style of thing, but I actually do like that. Now, there is one aspect of the gameplay when you're in the fighting part that you do have to get used to, is the fact that your health is symbolized by a little heart. That is actually your soul. And when enemies attack you, it kind of goes into like a little Space Invaders kind of minigame, where things will start flying towards your heart and you have to dodge them. That is pretty much made apparent from the start of the game, but it does take a little bit of getting used to when you're doing that. Even if enemies attack you, you will have to dodge their attacks, which if you get really, really good at it, you will be able to dodge and never get hit. There are some enemies that are just assholes, though, that will freaking, fill the entire screen. It's nigh near impossible to dodge everything. But it's done well enough that I actually like the fact that it's very, very different from everything else. But that's all I've really got to say of the gameplay. The gameplay is enjoyable. Now, when it comes to the graphics and the music, I'm going to say quickly about the graphics. The graphics are 8-bit. They are interesting, colourful, and I like them. It's a very unique style. It fits the game very well. If you hate 8-bit, you'll hate the graphics. That's as simple as that. Now, of course, comes on to the best part of the game. Now, I'm not joking. The best part of this game is the music. The music in this game is phenomenal. Not only the atmospheric music that plays during certain sequences, but also the music that plays during fights, and of course the boss battle themes, which are absolutely outstanding. I cannot say enough about the soundtrack. The soundtrack is immensely satisfying and enjoyable. I love it. I would highly recommend that if you do decide to pick up this game, pick up the soundtrack as well. You can get it on Steam, you can buy the soundtrack and the game in a bundle. I highly recommend it because the soundtrack is phenomenal. I cannot recommend the soundtrack enough when it is. Everyone will have heard at least one of the songs from this. It's called Hopes and Dreams, and the first version I heard of it was from a guy called Little V. Hopefully I'll be playing it over on you. You'll be hearing it here. It's not too spoiler, luckily enough. But the soundtrack is phenomenal. I gotta give major props to that. The soundtrack is absolutely exceptional. I highly, highly recommend that you do at least check out the soundtrack and buy it at the same time you buy the game if you do intend to buy it, because it's great. I love the soundtrack. It's very 8-bit, very retro sounding, and it's absolutely phenomenal. I highly recommend it. I don't think there's much else I can say about the game though, in all honesty, without going into heavy spoilers. other than the fact that this game is £7. It's less than a tenner. It's the price of a Starbucks. So I'm going to say it right now. If you have not picked up Undertale, I highly encourage that you do. The game is well worth the money that they're asking. In fact, it's a steal in my opinion. That's why I bought the soundtrack as well, because I wanted to give more to the developer. This game is phenomenal. I loved it. I definitely see why it is so popular and why a lot of people love it. I understand it. I understand why this is connected to so many people. I love this game. I enjoy it. Is it like as good as everyone says it is? It is a little overhyped. I will not lie. That's one thing that stopped me from picking it up, is the overhype. But it doesn't live up to the hype. It's not like the next best game out there and every game is shit compared to it. But it is up there with games that I think everyone should at least have a chance to play. So if you haven't already, I highly recommend it, and I definitely say that Undertale is worth it. Pick it up if you haven't already. I highly recommend it. Other than that, I don't have much else to say, other than I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope that you at least give Undertale a chance. And other than that, I thank you for watching. As always, I'm Scotch182. If you enjoyed this video, feel free to click that subscribe button and join the clan. And if you want to be even more generous, pop over my Patreon and consider helping me support this channel. Other than that, I'll see you all next time. Ciao for now.